Hello, this is DC Hammer, and today on the DC Hammer Show, we continue to twist the tail of the Red Dragon, taking a deeper dive into the murky realms exposed in the Hudson Institute report, the Chinese Communist Party's foreign interference operations, how the U.S. and other democracies should respond. So let's continue the revelation of the most dangerous assault on American freedom. And yes, I know the argument can be made that's either Mueller's American Inquisition or Nancy the Gavel Pelosi's blossoming reign of terror in the House of Representatives, but actually it is the decades-long and intensifying onslaught of the Communist Chinese to destroy the United States with the help of dragon buddies like Dinosaur Dianne Feinstein, and then dominate the world. This final episode on the Communist Chinese Party interference in foreign relations starts with information regarding the Chinese diaspora and the United Front organizations that are in the United States. The Red Dragon has used various techniques over time in order to control people that were born in China and have moved abroad in order to keep them within the domain of the Communist Chinese Empire. Since so many Chinese that either travel abroad, plan to live abroad, or study abroad and either plan to return or start a new life elsewhere, leave family members in the motherland in Red China, that situation is exploited by the Red Dragon in order to influence those people overseas to toe the line, to speak only favorably of the Red Dragon, to do nothing to expose the nefarious activities of the Red Chinese government, to not share family experiences about what their family members are going through back in the motherland, and to manipulate members of the diaspora communities for its own political purposes. One of the main tentacles that the Red Dragon / Octopus uses in order to achieve that goal is the influence of the United Front. Again, the United Front being the previous Soviet Bolshevik invention, a tool that they used in order to draw together all the various factions of the communist state to serve one another and to serve the greater cause, has been perfected by the Red Dragon and used to this day as a way to make itself bigger than it really is by ensuring that all factions within Red China speak the same, talk to the same aims, all salute Emperor Xi, and are all embedded with the same ideology regarding how to do things within their borders and abroad. Wherever people who are born in communist China reside within a foreign country, doesn't matter the state of the United States, the city of the United States, they are all kept under the same umbrella. The United Front has methods in order to ensure that they are spied upon, that they are kept in line, that they report information back to the Red Dragon, and if they don't, then punitive measures are taken against their family, against their friends, and against themselves. There are organizations that will fight back against the Red Dragon, and what it does in order to harass, intimidate, jail, and even murder members of factions with whom the Red Dragon has a disagreement, such as the Falun Gong practitioners. However, the action that's taken against the Red Dragon for its inhumane treatment of others does not seriously outweigh the amount of pressure, the manipulative practices, and the punitive measures that are taken against Chinese citizens abroad. This chart is a summary of the mechanisms and targets of influence that are used by the Red Dragon in order to carry out and maintain pressure on the diaspora and the Chinese living abroad to ensure that they toe the line and suit the purposes of Red Dragon initiatives. The primary components are the building of relationships, establishing joint ventures, lobbying, using market access as leverage, providing supplemental financing, and purchasing majority shares of companies. Those techniques of influence are targeted towards various organizations and individuals, whether it be independently owned Chinese language media, higher education, academic institutions, politicians, companies with ties to China, the mainstream media, that's film studios and news agencies, Chinese students and scholars associations, and overseas Chinese groups. There is legislation pending at various levels within the United States government in order to address these issues. However, the ability now of those measures to be passed into law and become effective completely disappeared with the House of Representatives in January 2019 now being in the hands of the Democrats, as the Democrats are completely beholden to the Red Dragon, particularly with people like Dinosaur Dianne Feinstein and others. If you'll notice that most of the legislation that is pending was introduced by Republicans, and again, even though there are a few Republicans that have fallen within the clutches of the Red Dragon sphere, it is primarily the Democrat Party and the Democrat National Committee that are tools of the Red Dragon. And so with Nancy the Gavel Pelosi now in charge for the next 2 years, if she remains the gavel wielder, then these bills and others will move nowhere, at least until Republicans take over the House of Representatives once again. As this report winds to a close, it does have some rays of light, some ways to shine the light on the darkness, a way to defend against what this Chinese interference means as far as taking down foreign nations. And naturally, one of the main weapons is always shining light on darkness, to increase the transparency and awareness for the public to better understand exactly what's happening and who is doing what, as we are trying to do through this series of episodes on the DC Hammer Show. We need to support the diaspora communities in the United States, empowering them to protect themselves against the influence of the Red Dragon, to enable them to have the ability to remain safe in this country, for pressure to be put on Emperor Xi and the other members of his government to enable Chinese living abroad to have assurance that their family members left behind will be treated fairly and without punishment for what takes place in other countries. And the mere elevation of democratic principles to ensure that we are resilient in our democratic strategies, that we train and educate people in democratic principles. I realize it's going to be very difficult for at least the next 2 years with the onslaught of what we're hearing from the House of Representatives and what has been going on for decades within our educational institutions. But this movement into the darkness can be reversed. It just takes all of us working together to make that happen. The report does provide some recommendations, specific methods and objectives, strategies, and actions that can be taken. For example, the National Security Council needs to illuminate this effort by showing exactly what the full level of Chinese Communist Party interference and influence in this country really means. Counterintelligence and law enforcement agencies need to seriously deal with what's happening, the activities of the United Front activities. Pray for William Barr as he takes over as Attorney General in a week or two, for his activities to help shine the light on the darkness, for him to truly be a white hat, taking control of those out of control Department of Justice and FBI structures, for him to replace the black hats in those organizations with white hats, people that are passionate patriots that will ensure that the influence of Communist China, other foreign influencers will decrease, action will be taken to deflect and defer their activities, and America and Americans will be held above the interests of foreign nationals. We talked before about the influence that think tanks, journalists, academic institutions have. We need to, per this report, implement a united front tracker to expose the Communist Chinese Party influence, hold people accountable for their actions as they promote the Communist Chinese, the Red Dragon, to the detriment of this country. Again, once William Barr is sworn in, for him then to rein in the FBI and to have them cease their activities that are related to the Mueller American Inquisition, and to focus our energies on fighting the Red Dragon and its influences within our borders from abroad. We need to collaborate with other nations in order to ensure that our actions are in conformance and support of what they are doing to fight the Red Dragon as well. Campaign finance and political integrity is an enormous issue, again going back to the 1990s, where the Communist Chinese dramatically influenced the administration of Bill Clinton. His unique ability to evade any repercussions for the illegal activities that were taking place and the illicit relationships that were formed with members of the communist state. This needs to be reversed. Action needs to be taken, whether it's through the Treasury Department, the DOJ, action taken against lobbyists that put the interests of foreign nations above this country as those lobbyists become wealthy at our expense, to ensure that foreign donations and other foreign monies are not used in order to sway U.S. elections in their favor, and to ensure that President Trump's January 2017 EO, his executive order, permanently barring executive branch political appointees from lobbying on behalf of foreign governments after they leave office, needs to be indefinitely and strictly enforced. Likewise, similar restrictions need to be extended to other senior officials in the legislative branch, the armed services, and state and local governments. Congress, state legislatures, local governments all need to increase their activities to be always putting America first and ensuring that the Red Dragon, the Communist Chinese Party, does not continue on the path to making us virtually a province of Communist China. The news media, the private sector, both the private and public funding, needs to be used in a way that will expose what the United Front is doing. Alternative media, as it is continuing to grow, and the Marxist screaming media, as it's continuing to fail and diminish, as the truth tellers replace the fake news. Whatever can be done in order to promote that is essential in order for us to turn the tide. Reviews by national security agencies, a specific code of conduct using the FCC, all of these are tools that we can use in order to put into place not only a foundation of laws and standards for the future, but also an expectation for individual conduct. Educational institutions, think tanks, whether they are publicly or privately funded, need to be prevented from becoming a part of the Confucius Institute or Confucius classroom system. Best practices need to be established. Policies need to be put into place so that think tanks do not accept government funding or funding from non-democratic governments and state-owned companies of the Communist Chinese network, the Red Dragon. And the rights of the members of the diaspora communities, the Chinese people living here, whether they are students here temporarily for another reason, traveling through the United States, their rights need to be protected. Awareness of the issues involved in how they are treated, and grant money should be allocated through federal, state, and independent grants in order to support the diaspora. As this report indicates, this is only a first step in unearthing the Chinese Communist Party interference in the United States. This is the tip of the iceberg, believe it or not. You would think that a report this in-depth would cover A to Z in the illegal and illicit activities of the Communist Chinese Party, the Red Dragon, but again, it only highlights the known issues that we need to address. It does not go into many of the United Front activities, the strategies that they've put into place, the Trojan horses that they have laid within our organizations, the number of politicians and individuals within this country that are actually working to take us down. the level of cooperation that is needed between the United States and the other free nations of the world to fight the Red Dragon at all turns? And although a lot of topics and issues were covered in this report, as the report concludes, there is much work to be done. It is their hope that this report will inspire others to pursue further research on this complex issue. DC Hammer Show will continue to uncover the Red Dragon and its nefarious activities at home and abroad. And I pray for strength for other passionate patriots to pick up the baton, to carry this work forward, to do independent research, to start your own blogs, provide articles for alternative media sites, to do independent thinking and connect the dots. Otherwise, these issues will only continue to be worse. The number of people involved in this web of espionage entangled in the Red Dragon / Octopus's tentacles as they continue on their quest to dominate the world will only continue. Let's work together, think together, act together in order to slay the Red Dragon, put it back in its cave. Thank you for listening. And now the DC Hammer Show is available as an audio podcast. Just go to Podcast Garden or iTunes and search for DC Hammer or News Network Analysis Associates, NNAA.